my name is Tori, and this is my channel. And today we are making the Sachima tote bag by Tryxus Designs. Now, I haven't done the final Tori squish on this, and I've also added a tassel to my main zipper. So this bag is just like a really fun tote shape. This front pocket actually goes all the way through, which is kind of fun. And then when you open it, you've got a slip pocket on one side. Oh, my light just turned off. And a zipper pocket on the other. So it's just like a nice, big, roomy, fun-shaped tote with a closing at the top, which is nice. And it's nice and thick too, which I liked. So if you'd like to see how I make this, stay tuned. Alrighty, guys, let's get started. I have a whole bunch of stuff here. So this is the front panel lining, and this is the slip pocket. So I'm going to start with the slip pocket. I'm just going to pop that over there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these right sides together. I'm using my bubble waterproof canvas. And by the look of it, I am just going to stitch along the top edge. Now, I've never made this bag before. But my theory is, how hard can it be, right? I'm just going to stitch across the top, like so. And then trim off the tails. And then I'm just going to fold that back so it's flat like that. So when I pinch it, it will fold on that edge nice and easy, which I like. So I'm going to stitch and back stitch, and then just top stitch along this pocket, like that, making sure that we back stitch at the end, and then trim your tail. Okay, and then I'm going to take one of my actual lining pieces, and I'm going to line this up along the bottom, and I'm just going to baste it down. Now, if this is something that you think you'll struggle with, what you do is you fold it in half, find the center, clip it, fold it in half, find the center, and clip it. Clipping it is the easiest way to be able to see the center. And I'm going to put that side out because I like that side better. You may not care, and that is okay. You don't have to. I do. So I'm just going to baste this to the edge within the seam allowance. So it doesn't matter what seam allowance you pick for this part, so long as it's less than the overall seam allowance. I always try to do around 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, because you don't want to be too far in. Alright, pull that out. So now I've got a slip pocket. I personally think that's a very large one. So I am going to go back to the center, and I'm going to split it in half so that it won't gape as much. And back stitch. Pull that out, trim off the tails. And so that's one side done. On the other side, we're going to put a zipper pocket. So I've used the Tori pocket template, and as you can see, I've already marked the rectangle. If you don't have a Tori pocket template, that's okay. You can use the ones in the pattern. But basically, you want to fold it in half and then do 1/2 an inch down from that edge, that folded edge. And then you're going to put the half you didn't draw on up the top. Now, my latest favorite thing to do is, I don't want this too close to the top either. I only stitch the long edges. Now, it's my new favorite thing to do. So we're going to stitch and back stitch. And then I'm going to pivot it 180 degrees. And then I'm going to do what's called a jump stitch. So I'm just going to go across to the other line without trimming that tail in between. And go back the other way, back stitch. And then I'm going to cut that jump stitch so it doesn't disturb my stitches in a second. Jump stitch, tail. We're just trimming everything. And then I'm going to take some scissors. Now, because this is just lightweight stuff, I can take my Fisker scissors. If this was on a heavier fabric, I would take my Class A scissors. These are more comfortable to use, but the other ones cut through thicker stuff better. Which is why I have two pairs, for anyone that's never seen a video and wants to know why. Down one side. So I'm just triangling out those corners, but it's not really a corner. So where I've drawn, I'm pretending that is my corner. So I've drawn the line and then I've just triangled it out to there. So now I'm going to fold that up and flat. And then the top one, I'm going to finger press it down and flat. Then we just push the pocket through. And it should flatten out for you really easy. And you'll also see that with no effort, those corners are lovely. Now, you don't actually have to put a zip in this. You could have this as an interior slip pocket if you wanted to. You would just stitch around it without a zip. But I like zips. And so I'm going to use, because I'm using gold hardware, I'm going to use the pink with gold teeth zip. Where's my zipper scissors? I'm going to cut off that bit. So when I ordered this pink, there was a lot of damaged bits. So you probably can't see it, but like up there, it's got like a rust stain. So I kept all the damaged bits and I'll just cut around them because they're about every, I don't know, they're just randomly. Now if you do have to use your normal scissors, when you're cutting zipper tape, use the back part of the blades so that if it creates a dull spot, it won't be the end of the world. I don't know where my zipper scissors are right now. I can't even see them from where I'm sitting. So we've just done it, and so be it. So I'm just going to singe all the ends really quickly with a lighter so that they don't fray and annoy me. And then I'm just going to split it about 2 or 3 inches. And then I put one side in about halfway. And I'm now going to look down into the zip to make sure that the teeth are lined up. And then to get it to move, I just wiggle back and forth and pull gently. And voila, zipper is on. So I'm going to stick the zipper over, lining up this edge of the zipper with the edge of the pocket. And I'm going to start at the top. I'm not going to back stitch because I'm going to come back around. Then I'm going to go over the zipper, needle down, pivot back the other way. Then when I get up to the zipper pull, I'm going to stop with my needle down. And I'm going to zipper open. Like that. And then do the last little bit. I'm going to trim off this tail because I'm getting back to the start. I think I need new snips. These ones are almost dead. And up the end and back stitch. So I'm going to leave the zipper open. If I pick up the main panel, this should just fold down and line up for you. And then I'm just going to stitch the 2 sides and not the bottom because that's where I'm going to turn the bag through. 1 and 2. Cool. So that's my inside pocket pieces done. So now, what have I got? I have got front exterior and that's the main outside gusset. I'm using the glitter vinyl, which I always forget you guys see at the start of the video. Alright, so I've done slip pocket, I've done zipper pocket. What does it want me to do next? Okay, it wants me to do the gusset. So we can do that. One gusset piece. You do it on the fold. It's got the on the fold thing. So we're going to go back to the lining and put in our gusset. So again, easiest way to line this up is to find the center. Both halves like that. And then the center of this piece, because I already found it for the other one. And so now I can just sew. I'm going to put these together with my little mark. And because I don't feel like pinning, I know that's really lazy of me, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to stitch and back stitch. Then I'm just going to hold it. Like this. So I'm going to line it up there, and I'm just using my fingers as the pins. Is pretty much what's going on. Like that. I'll show you on the other one how to pin it, by the way. Then I'm just going to flip it over and break my golden rule of always gusset on top. It doesn't count when we're sewing it like this though. And backstitch. Trim off those tails. So that's the way I do it when I don't feel like pinning things. But I will do one pin so that you can see what's going on. So we're going to line up the center. I'm going to take a bunch of pins and I'm going to put wonder clips and I'm going to put them facing the gusset piece. Like so. So once you've done a few along the bottom, I can then come up to the top, line up the top edge. And then I can work my way back down into this corner or curve, whichever way you want to look at it. So I'm using my thumb to push it out so that it's going to make the curve shape for me. So this is how you would pin it. So with linings, I quite often find that I can do them without pinning. And I like that. Because pinning just takes that little bit longer. But if you are new to sewing, pinning probably is a really good idea. So now that I've got all the clips facing up, this should be quite simple to stitch around. Except that that was knotted around my foot. Alright, so under we go. I'm going to stitch and back stitch to lock it all in. And then I'm just going to stitch along and pull the clips out as I go. I also think I'm about to run out of bobbin thread. That's okay. Look at us go. We're on fire. Almost wants to sit up by itself. Alright. Moving on to... what does the pattern say? It wants me to do a zipper. Where's the zipper bit? That's the bit that goes above the zipper. Here we go, zipper bits. So I'll need that next. So I've got them all pinned together. So you should have 2 exterior and 2 lining. Pop that over there. And we need some zipper tape. You know what? That's probably long enough. So I'm going to just crack the zip at the end and I'm going to pull this down and fold it. Now I know there's something called the butler method where you can do this as you go, but I don't want to. I don't like it. It's not for me. And it's probably because I haven't mastered it, and that's okay. I don't need to. That was just as easy for me. I'm going to make sure that both sides are even. Like that, and there's the last of my bobbin thread. So I am going to do a bobbin and then come right back. Alright, new bobbin is done. So now I'm going to take these, which is my main panels, and I'm going to make sure that they're both facing the same way, and then flip them over. And I'm going to put double-sided tape on one end. You could also iron it, but that would require me getting up and turning the iron on, which I'm very clearly not going to do, which is fine. So I'm also going to do the same to the lining pieces. Like that. And trim it. And then chop it in half, because that way it was quicker. And so now I'm going to peel off the backing of the zipper tape, not the zipper tape, the double-sided tape. And I'm going to line it up with my ruler right here, and I'm going to fold it down like that, and then crease it. I'm going to do the same to the other 3. So they're all going to be exactly the same length with one folded end. And by using the ruler, it actually doesn't matter what you use, as long as they all come out the same size. So this ruler is actually, you can't see it in the video, but this ruler is actually just a sticker I got off eBay. It's nothing super fancy, but it definitely does the job. Just crease that line. Last one. So there. All right. So you can go ahead, now that you've done this at one end, you can now separate your zip, because it doesn't matter. So I'm going to take a lining piece, and I'm going to have the zipper edge along the top, like this, and the folded edge is over here where the tail of the zipper is. So I'm going to clip this down. I find it easier to clip 2 bits and then add the 3rd. So I'm going to clip this. Like that. And then I'm going to take one of my exterior bits and put that down. And then add it into the clips. Top, tail, and then all the bits in between. So you can do that all 3 at once if you want to. I personally find it ultimately quicker to do the 2. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch down the raw edge along the outside part of the zipper tape and then stop at the folded end. And then we're going to repeat this process with the other half. So I'm going to get right to the zipper, the folded edge, and then do a couple of back stitches, and it's done. So then you want to take your scissors and trim off the excess like that and pop it in the bin. And then we're going to turn this out. Now, normally I would just chain stitch these, but we'll do all of one and then I'll just quickly rush through the second one. So now I'm turning it out and rejoining up that edge on the other side. So now I'm going to stitch down the end that we folded over to seal it shut. And I'm going to do an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Needle down, we're going to pivot. Like that, pivot, and back stitch. Trim off the tails, and so that's now one side totally complete. So there's top stitching, holding everything down. You can baste this edge if you want to as well, but I'm feeling okay about it. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have the folded edge at this side, but instead the zipper tape comes to the bottom edge instead of the top. That's the only difference. Otherwise, you could sit it the other way so it goes at the top, but backwards. Like, whichever way suits you best. Whatever way helps you wrap your brain around what we're doing. Because if you set it the exact same way as before, your zipper tape would be upside down. So, I mean, you could do that with the outside piece, I guess, but then that's just probably confusing you. That would confuse me. That's why I always try and sit them the same way. No, see, I just did it then. Because it's backwards. That's my own fault. Raw edges there, folded edges here. I shouldn't mess with my plan. So we're just adding this in. So this time I'm going to start at the folded edge, right on the zipper. Because I like to have the bulk of the fabric out of the throat of the machine. I find it easier to sew this way, and so as a general rule, it's what I always try and do. And we're going to get to the end, pivot, back stitch, pull her out, trim your tails so that they're not floating around. Then we're going to chop off the excess at this corner, like so. Push it into the bin. Pull it out. I can put the clips away. Then I'm going to top stitch the edges. Needle down, pivot. Make it meet. So if you wanted to, when you get here, instead of back stitching, you can actually just sew that edge shut too, if you wanted to. That's not a necessity. I'm not going to go and do it to the other one. But it just depends on if you'll sit nicely together or not. Alright, we're going to grab this. And I'm going to find the center of the sides. Obviously not the gusset. That would be unnecessary. Like that. Although we will need the side gusset bits later, so I may as well do that now that I think about it for the next step. This bag looks short at the moment, but I promise it is taller. Just give me a minute. Alright, so now we're going to do the same to the zipper tape. So where the fabric is, we're going to fold it in half and find the center to both pieces. We're not worried about the tail. The tail can be as long or shorter. You can make the tail shorter than that if you want to. I'm going to worry about it once the bag is made. So, because I've got a zipper panel here, what I always like to do is make sure that this zip and the top zip close in the same direction. Because that's just my thing. So I'm going to line this one linings together. And I'm going to clip it down. And I apologize if you can hear banging. It sounds like they're playing with the bombs again. Or cannons, or I don't really know. We don't get warning, they just do it. I'm actually pretty used to it. I only just heard them 2 in a row then, which is why I'm mentioning it at all. Usually I've got music on and I drown it out and I don't notice. Alright, so then I'm going to do the same to the other side. So I'm going to line up the 2 center points that I have marked. And then I'm just going to baste these down. Because it's going to be easier to baste them than add the other bit. So I'm just going to do it well within the seam allowance, and I'm just going to stitch and back stitch. Try and remember to back stitch your basting. Right, back stitch. Trim off the tails, and then I'm going to do the other side as well. So the lining's actually got more going on for it than the outside. The outside we just need to put a slip pocket on one side and the handles, or strap connectors, whichever way you want to look at that. Okay, so now we've got this, and you should have the closing ends at one end and your zipper tails at the other. So what I'm going to do to make my life easier is I'm going to take the tail and I'm going to clip it to the zip, so it's got like a loop, but it's not floating around, because this means that I won't accidentally attach it to something. I can just clip it there, like so. And then we want to grab our inner panel, pop that over there on that table. So now we've got an inner panel, and you use your exterior fabric. So I'm going to join them right sides together and sew the short ends. So I'm just going to sew here and the other end. One, and I'm going to chain stitch. So I'm just going to bring this over, join it up, go again. Then I can pull it out, trim in between, chop off the tail. Then I only have one tail to do, not 2. And to remove some of the bulk, I'm just going to take my zigzag scissors. These ones are Fiskars brand. They are a bit more pricey, but I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to last longer than my other ones. But my other ones were Triumph, and they still did really, really well. I personally wouldn't recommend the Semco ones from Spotlight. But apart from that, you're good to go. Okay, so to make my life easier, I'm going to find the center of the long parts and just snip it so that I can line that up with the center zipper panel. Zipper panel that we just did. Okay, so we want to take, you probably want to turn it right sides out like that. And so then I'm going to take this center part and that center part and clip it together. Work my way out one clip in both directions, and then I'm going to come and do the other side. So at present, your Sailor Moon fabric, or whatever pattern fabric you're using for your mane, should be sitting upside down. And so then we're just going to keep clipping around. We're going to join that bit at the center there. That's why we found the center of the sides. And I'm going to push the gusset pieces towards the gusset. So the seam allowance that's at that side, I want to clip it on the gusset on all 4 bits. I'm just going to keep clipping around. And so then we're going to come and do this side as well. So I'm going to line up that center. And then I'm going to clip the gussets, or the seam allowance, to face the gusset. Like that. And then we just need to clip the last little bit here. And the last little bit here. And if you need to check it, what will happen is when I've stitched it, that will then sit at the top, which is pretty cool. Now I'm just going to start where I can get in. It's not a big deal where I start, really. So I'm going to start here. And slowly stitch my way around, pulling the clips off as I go and bringing this around. Because it essentially is a giant awkward shaped circle. So you should just be able to go all the way back to the start. And back stitch. So now it's a bigger bag. So what we want to do is we're going to stitch, actually I'm not going to understitch it. The pattern says to come and stitch that down flat, but it's actually sitting quite flat, so I'm happy with how that is. So I'm going to put, that is the inside done. If you want to, you can make sure that this seam allowance points to the bottom, pull your zipper panel up and top stitch under there. But I'm quite confident that's going to sit lovely, and it might or may not have something to do with the waterproof canvas. I'm not sure, but it looks nice, so we're going to do that. I'm going to do the handles now too, while I've still got a decent amount on my bobbin. So I'm just going to take, I'm just doing normal handles. I'm not doing rolled handles today. Because to be honest, I'm actually halfway through cleaning my house, but I stopped. I started at like 5 a.m. when I woke up. I stopped because I'd like to do this video today, and then I'm going back to cleaning the rest of my house. Alright, so I've put the double-sided tape in the center, and now I'm just going to bring over each side into the center like so. Now because this is all glittery, so long as you join it perfectly even, you shouldn't even be able to see the seam because it's all glittery. So I'm just folding it into the center. Now if you wanted to, you could lay another piece of the Sailor Moon fabric on top. And I think I chose not to because I ran out of the fabric. Pretty sure that's what happened there. Otherwise I'd put another piece over this join, you wouldn't see it at all, because there'd be fabric over the top. I'm going to stitch and back stitch. It actually sounded like it didn't stitch half the stitches, but I can see that it did. It was just, I don't know, making a weird noise. And back stitch. So that's one done, and I can pop it aside till the end again now. I'm just doing it now because I know I've got a full bobbin, which means I won't have any joins, because I don't like joins if I can help it. Sometimes you don't get a choice in the matter, but when I do have a choice, I don't like them. All right. I'll turn it the other way. I have better luck with my right hand doing this. For whatever reason, probably because I'm right-handed. I don't know. You can even rub it on the edge of the table. Now this is quite thin, so it will sit right where I tell it to, which is awesome. And then we're gonna go one like that, and then go back the other way. And back stitch. Okay, so that, whoopsie-doodle. Oh. That is the handles done. So I can move on to the outer. So we're going to do the slip pocket. Put the pattern piece over with the other ones. So I'm going to put right sides together. And I always like to put the waterproof canvas on the bottom. So when I stitch, I like it underneath because the feed dogs will pull it through nice and evenly and it's less likely to slip on you. So that's why I do that. The lighter fabric for me always goes underneath. It's working out for me so far. I also have not yet decided what tomorrow's live is going to be. I can't decide if I'm going to do a jumpsuit or the siren bag. So if you're watching this in the order with which I make them on the same day, bear with me. I will work it out eventually, I promise. So we're going to have needle down in the corner and pivot and go across. Same thing on the sides. And back stitch. Pull it out. Trim the tails. Grab some zigzag scissors. And I'm just going to cut a bunch of the excess off. Now the reason these are really good for here is because it's going to allow the movement in the curve. So it should sit really nicely for you. And I like to use them where possible since I spend a lot of money on them. I did actually get them on a 40% off day. They had 40% off Fiskars scissors the day I actually just happened to need them. But they were $60 originally. But worth it, because I'll have them for a few years. Alright, so I'm going to push out the corner. So I'm going to grab it like this and go from finger and then push out the thumb. So I can get as pointier corner as possible. And then I'm just going to run my fingers along that curve and then finger press the waterproof canvas where I want it. Like that. Now I've got a corner that's not quite all the way out, so it's a little bit not crisp. So I'm going to take my stiletto or sewing awl and then kind of push it in and lever out that corner so it's nice and pointy. Because I like pointy corners. Excellent. So I'm going to top stitch these two sides, but not the top. Doesn't matter which side to do first and second, that is entirely up to you. Trim off the tails. And And then we're going to take one of our main outer panels. Put the pattern over there. That one fell on the floor. Then I'm going to line this up on here. Do I want to put it on now or later? I didn't even check the pattern. Because I'm just thinking once I attach that, that'll be the end of that. So we're going to not attach that yet. We're going to put it aside. And we're going to take our big vinyl, side bits instead. Because if I stitch that on now, right, that's all good and well. But when I'm attaching these sides, what will happen is I'm more likely to catch this while I'm stitching it and sew the pocket shut, which is obviously not what we want. So I'm going to attach this and then stitch this on afterwards. If that's going to work for me. Kind of hope it is. Alright, so we're going to move on to our side piece. So we're going to need our square or rectangle rings or any kind of strap attachment that you're using. I'm just going to do square ones today. Mainly because when I was cutting it, I misplaced the cool shaped piece. So it just became square. Square's a good safe bet as a backup. So I'm just going to put double-sided tape down the center of all of these, and I'm making like a caterpillar or a train, whatever you like to call it. Like that. Then I'm going to take the snips and snip in between them all to make them individual again. Another thing you could do if you wanted to and it was easier was just cut one long strip, fold it all in, sew it all fancy, and then chop it into 4. One side, second side. So I'm going to stick all 4. So this pink is the stuff I used to sell, but I've stopped getting it in because Spotlight's got it in. They've got like an orangey gold, blue, pink, I think silver as well. So I've stopped getting it in because it's too hard to compete with Spotlight. So I just don't bother trying. Okay, so you can stitch them if you want to, but I'm actually just going to fold them on and leave them like that. So I'm just going to put them around all of the square rings. So these aren't the chunky ones. I decided I didn't want chunky on this because it feels a little bit more delicate with the glitter and stuff. So I'm putting it on about 1/4 of the way and then folding this so it's roughly in the center. I also did show a hack where we can make it so the edges don't stick out, but because of the type of vinyl it is, I actually think I'm going to be alright, so I'm not going to do it this time around. So I'm just using 2 clips, one on each side, to hold that join in place. Now, if I grab my template, it actually has the placement for these. So I'm just going to hold it like this and then fold it down and then stick it under. So that's how I've decided I'm going to do my placements. And that's where the first one goes. So I'm going to crank my stitch length up to 3 3/4, and then I'm just going to start at the end where the metal is, because it's easier that way. And I'm going to stitch across, down the side, along the bottom, up the other side. And then I'm going to do a crisscross as well because, you know, I don't want this to ever come off, apparently, which is fine. And backstitch. What I could have also done is just done the square and then added a rivet. World really is your oyster. Do whatever you like. But that's what I'm going to do. You get like this crisscross thing. So again, I'm going to fold that down. I'm going to line it up along the edge like this. And then fold it down. Grab one of these. And stick it under. And line it up with this bit. Funny enough, the clips might actually get in your way. There, like that. So they kind of face, well, they look like they face in. They probably don't. It's just the angles that they're on. So I'm going to stitch and I'm going to back stitch. I'm going to take the clips off now because my hand can work as the clip. Make sure you obviously don't get the other side stuck under there either. You don't want to stitch it down. What just happened there? There we go. Along the bottom. Right in that corner. And then diagonally up. And back stitch. Oops. Last end. Same thing again. I just felt that move. That was annoying. It got stuck on here and it shifted. Okie dokie. Round, bottom, top, diagonal, bottom again, and then top, back stitch. Cool, one to go. If the clips annoy you, you could also add more double-sided tape to them all. Put that over with the other ones. Excellent. Now it seems a little bit fiddly. You could also do hidden strap connectors, or you could use metal ones, or, you know, whatever. And back stitch. So that's nice and secure and not going anywhere. Yay! So now we need to take one of our outside pieces And I'm pretty sure we're actually meant to attach it at the bottom, which is going to alter my whole zipper panel plan. I'll actually might look at the pattern in a second. So I'm also going to find the center of this bit, which will be where the fold was. So maybe you should mark that as you're cutting. Would make a lot of sense. I'm going to do both sides now. So I'm going to put this onto here. Grab some clips. Now this end's meant to go past it, because you've got to remember there's a seam allowance. So the fact that it doesn't measure perfectly to the corner is actually a good thing. So I'm going to do here, like that. Alright, so I'm going to start just past the join, like the seam allowance amount past the join. I'm going to stop with my needle down to readjust. And then we're going to go the seam allowance past, like that. Check, make sure it looks lovely, which it does. And so then I'm going to take the side and start up at the edge, or you can start at the base. I actually might take my scissors and just clip that right near there so it's more flexible. Like so. So I just clipped up to, but not through the stitches, so that it will sit and I'll be able to maneuver it to finish the bag up. Which is obviously what we're trying to do. So I'm thinking for the side with the pocket, I might just do this backwards and do the side bits first and then do the bottom so that I can add the pocket on, because that feels like a good idea. Oh, hold on a sec. That was my husband, just letting me know that we have officially got the jumping castle coming on the weekend. Yay! Alright, so I have clipped both sides together, and now I'm just going to stitch them. Nothing magical there. I did the other one automatically. I wasn't actually even thinking. When I'm on the phone, I like to still clip or work. My brain went into autopilot apparently, but so I have already clipped it, or the other side at least. So you just want to come down to where the other stitch is finished. And in this side, I'm going to start where the other stitch is finished. It's like turning a really tight corner. And back stitch. And I just sewed a pinch in that. Can you see right there? There's a little pinch in the stitches. So I'm not leaving it there because that's not cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to cut. So I'm going to cut that stitch that's holding the pinch. And then I'm just going to cut like 1/2 inch worth of stitches on each side of it, so that I've got some wiggle room to flatten it out. Like that. So I've only cut like about 1 inch worth of stitches. So I'm going to start on like 3 stitches back from where I left off. And I'm going to back stitch. And then I'm just going to hold it flat and stitch a couple of stitches past and back stitch as well. So in that 1 inch, the pinch is gone. Nobody, well, everybody will now know because you've seen the video. But, you know, if you gave it as a gift, nobody will ever know that you ever did it. See? Look at us go. All right, let's do this other pocket. I'm going to do it opposite, which I know seems silly, but I want to put the pocket on the way I want to put the pocket on. So I'm going to start here at this top edge, and I'm going to clip it with a bunch of wonder clips. So it's coming around. It actually probably doesn't matter which way we do this. And if it does, we're about to find out, aren't we? I mean, there is a third option that I've just come up with in my head. If this doesn't work, we can stitch... I've got a backup plan if this doesn't work. I think it'll be fine. Alright, so I'm going to have it with the fabric side up so that I can see when it ends and we run out of fabric. Feels like a pretty important decision. So, needle down, readjust. Now the pattern, I'm pretty sure, said to put some fleece in here if you wanted it like firmer. I'm aiming for more tote-ish style bag. Whoops. Alright, so then I'm going to do this other long side. Or top side? I don't know, whichever way you want to look at that. And again, clips towards the outer piece, the accent piece. Now, this is trying to fight me a little bit now. I can feel it. It doesn't necessarily want to bend in the direction I'm telling it to. So you may need a lot more clips. And then I'm going to start from the bottom end this time and go upwards. Back stitch, of course. Like that. So now I've just got the bottom, but before I do that, I'm going to take my pocket and baste it, or grab it in here, like this. And you can baste it, or you can just pin it like I'm going to. Alright, and add it to the bottom. Like that. Now, because we've done the sides, it's all going to sit in there really, really nicely. Oh, I've put it on a little bit crooked. That's my bad. This is why I should always find the center, people. There. To there. So I did the same seam allowance for the pocket as I did for the side pieces. So it should just sit accent piece to accent piece. It's just going to sit perfectly on top of the main panel. The main accent panel. Right, so that is now on. I'll show you that from inside. So the inside, this pocket's still floating because I'll tack it down at the end in a minute. But we've just attached it literally on top. Now I can take this part and add it into the clips. Because again, we all know I like to do two things and then the third and not try and do all three at once. Because it's tricky. Why make it trickier for yourself if you don't need to? So I also need to clip this little bit here like we did earlier so it maneuvers better. There we go. Maneuver that to there. Now I've got this little lump because apparently I didn't find the center. See, this is what happens every time I try and skip trying to find the center. I get this weird little lump. So we're just gonna maneuver it along until it disappears, like so. And so now I can just stitch from where we finished earlier to where we finished on the other side. Like that. And so now from the inside, this will be a pocket. So it's all lovely in there and we've just got it floating. So now what I need to do is just lay it flat like that and top stitch it along that top edge so that the pocket sits where it's meant to. It's easy enough. And back stitch. There we go. Outside is done. I like it. So, I'm going to take our lining and turn it right side out. Like so. I'm going to make sure that my zipper pocket is open so that we can easily turn the bag through. And then I'm going to put my zipper pocket on the back wall. So the slip pocket on the main panel's here, and then my zipper pocket's going to touch this side. I also need to find the center of the side curvy bits, because as we noticed before, I should always just find the center. Oh, I just threw them on the floor. Alright, so I'm going to join that center here. And then I'm going to make the clips face the lining, because that's going to make it easier to turn. I'm also going to make this seam allowance point outwards, not inwards. And then I'm going to come here and do this center. Like that. So that's half done. But I am going to clip all of it. And make sure that that zipper panel is facing down so it won't get in the way of the stitches. And again, we want to keep the clips facing the lining because we're going to stitch it the lining side up. And again, I'm going to point this. Actually, I didn't point the other one in. Oh, that's because we sewed it the opposite way. So that one's pointing out, but only because I sewed it 2 different ways. Clipping. Why do I keep getting this bubble? Stop it. Oh, there we go. Bubble gone. So when you think it doesn't fit properly, if you start moving backwards, you might find that you've accidentally overstretched something and then it'll fit. I find that a lot. It's because I'm in a rush. It's fine. Alright, so I'm going to just start anywhere. It doesn't really matter where you want to start. It's entirely up to you. I am on a joining stitch length. I am making sure I'm not going to hit the metal strap connectors. So as I get to them, I'm putting my hand on them so that I don't stitch over them because it feels pretty important. You'll snap a needle like I did in the other video. You always want to try and stop with your needle in the down position. Some of the domestic machines actually have a function, so you can push a button and then it will always stop in the down position. If you've got it, I highly recommend you use it. It's amazing. Alright, last little bit. And when we get back to the start, we are going to backstitch. And I don't have snips now, because I accidentally threw them on the floor. All right, so I'm going to chop off that excess and that excess. And that should be enough. So we're going to go into the zipper pocket, grab an edge, and just pull it through. Now, because I didn't put fleece on this should be surprisingly easy to do. So I use my thumbs to kind of push everything into the zipper pocket piece. If you can get your bag to that point, I promise it will turn out really easy. So I'm going to grab a hold of this, and then I'm going to just gently tug at different parts of the fabric until it pops out like that. You don't want to pull really, really hard with all your strength. You'll pop a seam. You are stronger than the thread. And there's no need to pull that hard. It will just maneuver out if you're gentle. So we're nearly finished, guys. I'm just going to push all the right bits out. So before I seal this up, I'm actually going to stick my hand back in and just run my hands along all the seams so that it sits right where I want it to. And then see, this is the outer panel. And it's got a slip pocket. Super cool. Alright. I am happy, so I'm going to seal up the zipper pocket. So I'm just going to use my knuckles to fold under a little bit of the fabric. How much you fold under is actually entirely up to you. But do remember that the more you fold, the smaller the zipper pocket gets. So I try and fold as minimal as possible without it being annoyingly tricky. There's no actual size to that. I use my fingers to kind of measure it. And backstitch. We're using giant scissors. Oh, I think I just ran out of bobbin thread again. That was close. Okay, I did. So, I'm just going to need to wind one more bobbin to put the top stitching around that top edge. So you just want to fold all of this under like this. And if you need to, add some clips so it holds where you need it to hold. I do love the glitter. I'm very happy with the glitter. Alright, so we just want to clip all this down. So I'm just rolling it back with my fingers. I'm more folding it than rolling it, if I'm totally honest. And then I'm just adding clips around the top. Bit willy-nilly. There's no real pattern to where I'm putting them. I'm just putting them. To hold it in place. Now I'm doing this before I do the bobbin. Because it's vinyl, it's going to help crease it, which means it's going to try and slip less when I'm stitching it. So if you need to do a bobbin, you're still better off to do this bit first and then wind a bobbin. Whoops, I missed. That was annoying. Alright, so that's just going to sit there and kind of do its thing for a minute while I go and do another bobbin. Alright, so now we are up to top stitching. I've gone all the way up to a 4 size stitch length so that it's long and pretty. And then I'm going to start, it doesn't actually matter where you start, wherever. Now, if your stitches will allow it, I personally am not going to backstitch. I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge and just work my way around. I'm also making sure that the metal in the square rings is out of the way. And I'm always trying to stop with my needle in the down position so that I can readjust without it shifting. So I'm bringing the bag around as I go. Now I can see metal, so again, you want to tuck that down out of the way. Tuck it down. I'm almost back to the start, so I'm going to trim off most of the tail from that. And then when I get back to the start, I'm going to go through probably 3 stitches and then back stitch. And that will lock in the first lot and like lock in the start and the finish all at once. Cool. 2 more steps. First off is let's install the zipper. So I'm going to grab the zipper because I know it was the same length when we started. So long as you've done everything correctly here, what should happen is we feed this on one half, and then if we line up the other half, it should just be even at the end. But if it's not, that's also okay. So I'm going to just wiggle it down until it comes down. And I want to make sure that it's even. Mine is lovely and even. Not sure if I even fluked that or not, but whatever. So then what I'm going to do is I don't have zipper ends. I am going to order some because I want to start using them. They feel like they're going to be quicker for me. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a glitter vinyl end. So this is the width of the zipper tape and then double the width of the zipper tape. So when we fold it, you'll get a square. That's what I have chosen to do. You can do it however you like. So I'm going to pull off the double-sided tape, and then I'm just going to put it about halfway. It doesn't have to go all the way to the end, and then I'm just going to stick it on like this. Now you can start wherever you want. I'm actually going to do this long end first because I'm still stitching over the zip to get locked in place, and then across the end, and then I'm going to do the zipper teeth last so it's got minimal chance of moving on me. And then I'm going to bring it around. So I'm going to just swivel the bag around this way to go over the zipper tape. Now, obviously, don't sew over your zipper tape if you've used a metal zip. Strategically go each side of the teeth, or you can chop the teeth out. That's your choice. And then I'm just going to trim off the tails. And so that's my zipper. Now, I already made in another video on how to make tassels a tassel. So I made this whole bag based on I already had a tassel for it because I really like putting tassels on the main pocket zip. I've got one on my floozy and that's how I open and close the bag, and it's amazing. So now what we need to do is add some straps. So we're going to go up and under. Now because I haven't used any rivets on this, I don't know if I want to start yet. So I'm actually going to do the crisscross because I always just rivet handles on and not everybody has a riveter. So you just need to maneuver the bag around and around. And it's all a bit skew-iff at the moment. It needs like a proper press. Across and then back. So I'm just doing the crisscross. And then I'm going to trim off those tails. So this is going to need a Tory squish, especially in these sections here, because they're not sitting out nicely like they should yet. They will, just not yet. So that's one. So then I'm going to bring this around, up and through, and then I'm going to stitch that one on. You don't have to rivet your handles. I probably should have put strap ends, but it's too late now. They won't get on there. But strap ends would look really pretty right about now. You also want to make sure you've got the same amount of fabric out. So to do that, the easiest way is obviously with a ruler. So from there down is to there. I actually need a little bit more. There we go. And I always like to start where the hardware is, where the metal rectangle ring is, which I'm very aware I always call square rings. They're obviously not square. So again, swing the bag around, down, needle down, back around. If you can, avoid trying to bring your bag through the throat part here, because you usually have to squish your bag down too much, so it's not advised. So that's one handle. I know the bag's still a bit soft. So this is a softer vinyl, so I knew this was going to be a thing when I did it, but I kind of like the soft bag. And I like the pink glitter more than anything. But I could have interfaced the glitter. So if you've got really, really soft vinyl and you don't know what to do with it, interface it. Pretend like it's fabric. Add interfacing. Won't harm it, so long as you don't iron it for too long, and you always do it with the vinyl side down so the iron doesn't touch it, you'll be fine. It'll work out great. I have interfaced this vinyl before, if anybody's got any left and decided it was too soft. I don't hate the softness of it. I'm also probably going to make some winch bullets out of this because it's glitter. Who doesn't love a good glitter? Oops. Alright, last one. So we're going to put it on, around, through, up. Get my ruler, make sure it's down enough. Right there. Whoops. Under. Now, if you want to, you can actually backstitch to the corner if you're good at backstitching, and then you don't have to move the bag as much. That is your choice. You don't have to, it is just an option. Depending, of course, on how thick it is and if your machine can deal. But if it can, voila. So, you just grab your giant tassel to open the bag. And I just need to come and do a Tory squish along all of this. So you just roll it in your fingers and then violently shake it. Like that. And you'll get like a nice curve. I will do it all later, but that came out quite cute. The zipper's possibly a little bit long because I've now got the tassel, but I'm okay with it. So that's a fun, like, zippered tote. And this is a slip pocket. So there you go, guys. I hope that was somewhat useful. This is a cute bag. You never know, I might even make another one. Alright, guys, until next time. Bye-bye.